All right, with all that being said, I want to move on here and answer a question from a viewer. This question came in to me during a live chat last night, and they asked me, hey, is it true that you should always download your magazines by one round to make sure the gun operates more reliably and that your magazines don't wear out quicker? Well, I have heard this from people too. So I know this person didn't just make this up. I've seen it over the internet for years. But I'm going to have to say right now that the same people who say this stuff are usually the same ones that say leaving your spring compressed wears it out, which is just a scientific falsehood. That's not how springs work. And I personally have never seen a reason for that to be a carte blanche rule. In fact, it's the exception to the rule, in my opinion. There are some guns that you can't load all the way. But most guns, you can put every round in that magazine that it's made to hold. It's designed to hold that many. I've only personally ever had one gun that I can remember that I could not load the magazine fully. That was my Glock 29, 10 millimeter Glock. If I loaded the magazine fully, it had really a hard time seating. I had to bash it in, and then would fire the first round that was already chambered, and then I would have a failure on the second round because that magazine being fully loaded just didn't want to work properly in the gun. So I knew on that gun, if I was going to carry it, I would have to download it around. I didn't carry that gun, so I didn't have to. But that would be like an exception to the reality, in my opinion, because I've never seen any evidence that most magazines have to be downloaded. Most guns don't have a problem with a full magazine. And downloading them by one round does not increase the life of the spring at all. So I think that's just a fallacy. It's something, like I said, that people who really don't know anything just say because someone told them that before. Remember, people are often very confident in their ignorance and their misinformation. But like I say, unless I ever saw someone do a study where they took the same magazines and the same guns, loaded one round down and loaded one fully, and they had more failures and the spring wore out faster than the other one while shooting the same amount of rounds, then I might say, well, let's repeat that and see if that's true. But right now, I've never seen any evidence. There's no evidence to support the idea, period. Like I say, not how springs work. Most guns don't need to be downloaded around. Why would you give up one round of ammunition? Guns are meant to be carried. Why do you think manufacturers say 8+1? They don't just say 8 and then take one out for the chamber. They design those to hold a certain number of rounds. And I find that the people who say that they can't handle them, most of that is based on bad science and misinformation. So if you ask me, no, you do not need to download your magazines by one round. Don't give up any capacity. Unless you have a gun that you know doesn't reliably work if the magazine's full. But in that case, I'd probably never carry that gun. So at the range, it wouldn't matter so much. So I'm going to say right now that rule of downloading magazines is just pure internet bullshit. This is a follow-up on a portion of my video yesterday where I talked about downloading magazines by one round and how that whole notion that you have to do that for most guns is bunk. Some people said, well, yeah, but you didn't cover the feed lips. The feed lips are what are going to wear out. Well, here's a magazine right here, and this is not even a high-end magazine. This is a PMag. This magazine has been loaded 8 or 9 years. It's been in an emergency bag for 8 or 9 years. I did this on a video, and I've never used these PMags since then. It's still in perfect condition. There's nothing wrong with it from being loaded for that long. When people say things like the gun won't operate properly or the magazine doesn't operate properly when it's fully loaded, well, that's not people giving you a bit of advice. That's people making excuses for shitty products. If the gun won't work, if a full magazine's shoved in it, that's a problem with the gun. If the magazine won't work properly while fully loaded, that's a cheap fucking magazine with a problem with it. So stop making excuses for shitty things. If they don't work the way they're supposed to, don't use them. I disagree with some people who say, well, if your magazine has problems, if it's fully loaded, just always download it one. No, get another fucking magazine. Don't do things the way you shouldn't do them just because the magazine can't do it the way it should. Because a good magazine should, and you should never have to download a good magazine. And also for people who say, well, I just download one so that I can get it in easier. Well, in all the time I've been taught to handle rifles, especially M16s, ARs, etc., military, so forth, I've never once been told, and now you gently insert the magazine. No, you slap that bitch in there. So go ahead, fill it all the way up. You can download it if you don't want to do that. That's up to you at the range, blah, blah, blah. But don't feel like you have to, because any good magazine should be able to be filled all the way and should suffer no ill consequences because of it.